Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I hope everyone had a great holiday season. If you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, or any other part of the world, I hope you had a great weekend on the past weekend. My name is Paul Atkinson. I'm the author of the book that you see in front of you, The 5 Steps to the Sale. And with Agent Locator, we work together to get you guys in a strong position. Today, we're going to talk about the BRA. They call it the BRA, which is a buyer's representative agreement in Canada. And in the United States, we call it the buyer's brokerage agreement. So we're going to show you today a copy of an agreement. We have two in the United States. In Florida, where I practice my real estate, we use the real estate law here says that we are to use either a transaction brokerage agreement or a single agent. That's the law. So I'm going to show you from a perspective of the Florida situation. Before we get started, we would like to also give folks a little bit of time to get here so they don't miss anything. So while we're waiting, Vanessa, how about we do something different today? Because this should be very interactive. How about we allow 10 people out of all of that you have here, just pick randomly 10 people to come up and let's do some free coaching. Dennis, wow, look at that. Daphne, wow, look at that. Look at that. Line them up, line them up. All right. 10 people are there. So, number one, first person, just ask a question. Tell me while we're waiting, just tell me your name. Hi, my name is Dennis, and I had a question for you, Paul, and just ask the question. Now, I am a certified professional coach, and what that means is that I've studied for a 2-year period at the University of Miami, and it's an environment where you have to get this strong certification on how to help your client, usually CEOs or entrepreneurs, to have them into some sort of a thought-provoking environment. We, as a professional coach, we do not tell you what to do. We rather invoke it. So we bring you into a thought-provoking environment so you could figure out what the answers are. We guide you through it, and then it becomes more sustainable because it's not just given to you. So that is the difference. All right, so go, Dennis. We'll take a few minutes, 10 minutes of this, and then we'll go over it. What is a good question you'd like answered by a CPC today? Dennis, and then dip in, and then Harpreet. So Dennis, please, what's a question in your business? Can you allow them to speak, please, Vanessa? I think you guys, you just have to take your mic. You have to unmute yourself if you want to speak. If it's going to be in the chat, I can do that too. I mean, I could read, but Dennis, you're up. Or who would like to? Okay, hi. I am AI assistant helping Harriet. Oh, wow. Hey, that's pretty cool. Look at you.
Should we allow the assistant to talk?
Yeah, okay, AI. What question does Harriet have? This is cool. Can you imagine that? All right, who would like to ask a question about their business? Hello, everyone. We have quite a bit of people here.
Let's try with Hassan. Hassan, are you willing to speak with us?
What questions do you have?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Hassan, thank you very much for stepping up to the plate. Today, we're going to talk about the BRA, or in the United States, we call it the Buyer's Brokers Agreement. Where are you located, Hassan? What country?
I'm in Mississauga, Ontario.
Okay, so you're in Canada. So we're going to be, it'll be the BRA. I don't have a copy of the BRA as it is in your brokerage firm, but it's pretty much the same. I could imagine the structure of it. What question would you need to answer in 2 minutes?
The question that I have is that most of the people here in Canada are reluctant to sign the BRA because they do not want to be committed to one agent. And as it is, that every buyer wants to pinch anything from anywhere it is possible. So they don't want to sign, or they sign with someone who gives them a good kickback. I have seen that most of them, they are reluctant, unless and until you have been working with them very closely, and then they start seeing the homes, and after that they feel comfortable with us, then they only sign. But as of now, I've seen that most of the people, they only sign the BRA for the particular listing that they want to go and see, but they do not want to get committed for all the listing that they would work for with us. That is
Totally,
an issue.
totally understand how you feel and how others feel there. I hear that a lot in Canada. One of the things that we feel is good is having the ability to influence, persuade, and seduce, not in a relationship way, personal relationship, but seduce in business is a key element to our success. So, for example, what we're saying is, I understand in your marketplace in Canada, the buyers are going after agents that are willing to share with them and do things that are unethical, perhaps. But you must stand firm. And the two things that can help you is the right attitude into your mindset. And then two, you should have some kind of skill set. And your skill set should be the ability to influence them and persuade them to sign the agreement and work with you. And then you create value. When you create value and show exactly what it is that they're getting, then they will find value to it. I have one agent, her name is Nancy Brown. She consistently uses the BRA and she even collects a retainer. Can you believe it? She sits with the client, and I'm going to show you how she goes through it and how we go about it if you wanted to practice that way. But you have to be able to have the right mindset, meaning that you actually think that you are the best realtor, and because you need that. You have to have this like an athlete, you have to think about it. And secondly, you have to have the skill set, which is selling skills. You have to be able to convince someone, to be able to take them through a process, getting them to like you, listen to you, trust you, believe in you. So, all right, Diana, thank you for being here. I see that in the chat. So, Asan, we're going to talk about that, and I understand what you're going through. Perhaps at the end of our presentation today, when we go through it, you'll see the structure of it. The structure will be, you want the client to sign the BRA, or the buyer's brokerage agreement in America. Then number one, you have to get them to connect with you, to trust you, to believe in you. And then after doing that, then you have to create value in yourself and show them why they should use the agreement. That's it. What's your feedback on that, Hassan?
Yes, I get it. But you see, one more thing that you need to really emphasize here is that knowing that the buyer is not paying anything to us here in Canada, the buyer don't pay anything. And I think neither in USA. Sorry. So, because they are not paying anything, they are independent and they feel that because they buy from us is where we are making a good kill. And at times I have seen that even they ask for a kickback. Like, okay, oh, you're getting 2.5%. So what is there in for us?
Okay.
It's not that any particular type of people or a community does that. It's everyone, every buyer that most of them, not, I would say not every, but there are certain luxury state buyers and all that, they may not go for that low, but then there are most of them. And now in this present market, they are more stricter. Oh, okay, if I buy from you, would you be able to furnish our bedroom, or would you be able to furnish my living room? It is
Okay.
just sort of a kickback they ask. Yes, it's no problem. We can do that. But the thing is, still, they are not committed. They will give, and at the tenure, when the BRA is expiring, they will just roll off, and then later on, they may see the same houses from somebody else.
Okay.
So
All right. Okay. And I see in the chat, there's a lot of comment about that. And who is that, Jeff? That started Brompton Buyers Agents. Okay, so here's what I want to say to you, Hassan. It sounds like you have an infestation. Let me put an analogy here. Have you ever had an animal, like for example, a pet, a dog? And
yes, I do.
Okay, have that dog have had fleas? Fleas.
I, I
That
keep it clean. Never
okay.
had it.
Wonderful, that's good. But my dog had fleas, and what do you have to do? You got to, hey, clean them up and make sure you prevent that. So here's what I'm saying to you: in your marketplace, in my opinion, you have an infestation of, let's say, agents like yourself, like me and you, who are bending. Because number one, isn't it unethical, illegal for you to share commission with
It
someone that's
is.
not licensed? Okay,
It is.
so all right. So now, are they really sharing commission, or they're just bending because they're giving the buyer some kind of rebate? And if they're going about it the right way, which is okay if you do it the right way, you're writing an addendum. All parties acknowledge that the buyer will get a buyer's rebate from this brokerage firm, Remax or whatever, and you write it out. But it's the agents that are causing that to happen. Now, if you choose to be a stronger agent and handling that, then that's better for you. What does that mean? How could you be a stronger agent? Okay, well, you get with that buyer and say, hey, listen, do you want to deal with a real estate agent that has the ability to negotiate very effectively, to get the deal done immaculately, very well? Or do you want to deal with a maybe average realtor and get some of the commission? Which one would you want? You want a deal done, or you want some of the commission? So it's all about how you have your own mindset and how you deal with the clients.
So
Bring someone else up. Let's someone else.
important to me now, Paul, is that I'm on that part of an age that I don't really run for the money. I
Good.
want to provide service. I want to provide back to the community I work. And as Jeff said, it's not only in Brampton. He is trying to point out certain particular community, and that's very wrong of him. I say overall, every human being has got that instinct to pinch corners. Every human being has that. Unless, and even like someone said, that service, you give the best of the service, even though they expect more. And yes, I'm open to give them all that. And I've been doing it. It's not that big deal.
Very
The
good.
thing is, nowadays, I feel a pinch that because of the economy, that the way it is going,
Yeah.
everybody now has started, trying to get something out from the
Don't fall into
realtor.
that, Nasa. Hassan, don't fall out. Look in the
No,
chat.
no, no,
Yeah, don't
never.
fall into
I
it.
would never fall it. Rather,
Yeah.
earlier, I used to take more.
Yeah.
But now 2.5 is a standard, because that is what the sellers are offering, and that is what I take. At times there are 2% also that the seller is offering, because it is in the listing. I accept that, and I do, and I'm happy with that. But I'm not happy to really, give them the kickbacks.
Right. Don't do it, buddy. I've been in this business 20 years and I've never done it. As a matter of fact, my clients pay me more than the commissions that's out there. So be advised.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's go into one more questions. We're up. A lot of people are coming in right now. We're just going to take one more feedback or one more talk. Anything you want to ask me before we get started? Anybody? Look at that. Joyette? Juti. Ask me anything you want. Come on.
Hi, Paul. I'm not feeling well. That's why I'm not in the camera. I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm in the same market, Brampton, Mississauga, for the last 13 years. I've never given away a single penny of mine. I make full commission.
Perfect. And how do you do that? What causes you to do that?
When I'm talking on that topic of commission, I try to show them value, and I say we'll get back to the negotiation. What you want me to give you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I avoid talking about it. I keep going, and at the end, I win.
Yep. There we go.
It's just a question. It's just an objection. I don't get scared of that.
Exactly.
I beat them up on that.
Very good. You have
13 years, not even given a single penny. No kickback, no nothing. It's my money.
Exactly. You work for it. And if you want to,
I work for it. Yes.
Yeah, you could tell them, listen, you could say to them, hey, let me ask you something. Here's a good example. You could say to that buyer that comes to you and say, hey, are you going to help me to buy that bedroom set? You could say, okay, hold on a second. Can I ask you, where do you work? And they say, oh, I work at Apple phone. Okay, when you get your paycheck, can you help me to buy my grocery? Let's be reciprocal. I give you, you give me. How about that? I mean, it's
Well,
not
I say that, and there's no answer coming out.
okay then.
I'm
You know,
proud to be from Keller Williams. That's what they teach us. If you cannot negotiate for yourself, how would you negotiate for your client?
exactly.
So
Hmm.
thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you all for stepping up. And I hope you feel better very, very fast.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. On the screen, look on the screen, there's a QR code. Click on that QR code. It will take you someplace. I don't even remember where, but when you get there, you can see what's going on. The 5 steps of the sale is a selling system that I created over 30 years ago. It has allowed me to close 99% in my presentations. When I'm dealing with a buyer or a seller, it doesn't matter. It's allowed me to rank #1 in the 1% nationally in practically all of the brokerage firms that I've been into. Century 21, Coldwell Banker, you could do the research. I've been there. Now we have our own firm. It's called PRA and Company Realtors. So today, Agent Locator has asked me to talk about how do we deal with the BRA. The BRA, of course, is the Buyer's Representative Agreement in Canada. And in Florida, where we practice, we call it the Buyer's Brokerage Agreement. So let's get into that. There's a few things that you first need to understand. When you are dealing with a client, you should have what we would call some kind of like, let's say, a selling approach. A selling approach would be something for you to use in order to get that client, the buyer, to like you, to listen to you, trust you, and to believe in you. And the one that we know the best is the 5 steps of the sale. So what is the 5 steps of the sale? It's on the screen. Take a look at it. It's a systematic approach to where you can influence, persuade, and seduce your clients. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, when you first get a buyer, then the first thing you need to do with them is step 1, right here. See it on the screen? I'm circling it. That's the conversation. Everybody could see the screen? Yes? Somebody tell me yes, you could see the screen, and I'm circling conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Conversation is where you put the buyer at ease and getting the buyer to like you and listen to you. So, booms. Agent Locator gives you a lead. It's an internet lead. And you ring, call that lead. Hello, is this Sonia? Hi, Sonia. My name is Paul. I am with Remax. I am with Keller Williams. I am with blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to help you with your home search in Ottawa or Toronto, whatever. And you would say to them, hey, is this a good time to talk? They're like, yeah. And you could pick up on it. You say, hey, you've got an accent. Wow, so nice. Where are you from? I'm from Jamaica. Or you could hear something in the background. You got to associate with them. Or you see the phone number, the zip code, where they're calling from. They're calling from, you're calling them, and they're in a particular area. What can you associate with that would get them to like you and listen to you? You got to create these skill set. After you do that, then you would make them curious to hear your proposal. That's the second step. So you would say, hey, listen, I'm here to help you find that property. I see you're looking for 3-bedroom, 2-bath, the square footage. I see everything that you're wanting to do. I want you to know I have a lot of properties on the MLS that I'm sure is going to meet your needs, but I really, really need to filter it out. And I promise you, when I do show them to you, you're going to love them. That's creating curiosity. The next step is for you to get them to be intrigued. When you go show the house, there's a certain way that you need to show the house. You need to make sure that they totally are getting what they want to see and what they need to see in the house. If you take them on a house and it's not what they want to see, you need to make sure that you tell them you totally get it. I understand this is not the right one for you. Let's get out of here. The next thing after that is step 4. And in step 4, that's where you handle objections. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit today. Objection is where you take their concerns and just turn it into a question and just handle it. What am I saying? A buyer says, no, I'm not going to sign the BRA. I don't want to do that. Then you need to handle it just like step 4 says in the 5 steps of the sale. You start out by using a verbal bridge. Person says, no, I'm not going to sign it. You say, Okay, Mr. Buyer, I could understand how you feel. Others have felt that way. And that brings up a question. And the question is, you're wanting to know what is the reasoning behind you signing this BRA. Is that correct? Yes. Now, when you take the sting out of it, there's no more, let's say, confrontation between the two of you. You can go and start to give your presentation. Well, you see, Mr. Buyer, this is why it's good for you to sign it and for me to sign it, because it protects both of us. And you start to go through it, which I'm going to show you next. The final step of the 5 steps of the sale, my dear friends, is closing. And this is where you want to get to. There's a secret to close. And the secret to close is something that we hold very dearly in our hearts. That is knowing when to close. You got to know when to wrap it up. That's the secret. So the 5 steps to the sale, you got to build conversation. You got to make them curious to hear your proposal. You got to make the presentation of the property very good. It should include what they want to see. And then there will be no objections, and they will say, make an offer for me. In this case, when you are now making this presentation of the BRA, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to say, hey, we're going to run into the flow. So here we go. Let's run into the flow of it. Let's stop sharing the screen and let's go to, I'm going to need some assistant, Benisa, in the chat. If we see anything that needs me to stop and answer, would you please tell me, Paul? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Absolutely will do.
Thank you. So I want you to be on track, and this is being recorded, so don't worry about it. All right, I'm sharing my screen right now, and what I'm sharing with you is what is called a buyer's exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. Now, because I am in the state of Florida, and that's where my license is, I can only use this one. I apologize. I don't have a copy of yours, but I want to go through the motions with you, okay? As you could see, it's a simple document where you fill in, right? You're going to put the party's name. The buyer's name goes here. Let me start to do some write-up on this. This is the buyer's information goes there. Then your brokerage information goes here. And then, obviously, you're going to put the period of time. So when you do this, I would recommend that you pre-fill this out prior to having this sit down with the client. Now, let's do a little bit of role playing, because this is where it really, the rubber hits the road. As I told you, Nancy Brown, she practiced this for many years that I've known her, and she even collects a retainer. What does that mean? You're going to see on this agreement at the bottom, there is a place called retainer. She actually collects money from them and say, hey, listen, I'm committed to you, you're committed to me. She's very good at it. It's pretty easy. And, you know, it's retainer right here. You can see retainer, number 6. All right, before we do that, let's role play. Let's understand what you have to do. You've got to be in a position where you're using sales skills. And sales skills mean that you know how to connect with the client, getting them to like you, listen to you, trust you, and believe in you. You know how to get their want, need, and their DBM, their dominant buying motive. It's a feeling. You know how to do that. Once you know how to do that, then you're going to take them into the curiosity stage. And the curiosity stage is where you're saying, hey, listen, I know exactly what you want. I know what you need. I've got you covered. Wait until you see the properties that I'm going to show you. And they say, oh, yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see you, Paul. And then you say, okay, before we get started, I would like to meet with you in our office, because sometimes we do it like that. I want to go over some things with you. Can you come down to the office, have a cup of coffee tomorrow? They say, no, you can't do it that way. Then you could say, okay, let me set up a Zoom call, or right on that conference call you're doing. We call it a buyer's initial conference call. So the first time you get connected with them, it's probably not the ideal time to hit them with the BRA. It's probably not the right time. So you get really cozy with them, you get them to like you, listen to you, trust you, you got what they want, you make them curious, and then you set up a second meeting, either in person or in Zoom, because you want to get this BRA signed. Is that correct? I would recommend in person. Now, because from what I'm hearing from some of the agents that we're coaching from Canada, it's like becoming the law in some areas like Ottawa and places like that where, you know, you have to get this agreement signed before you take a buyer out. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but if that's the case, I recommend this approach. Number one, get that client connected with you, like you, listen to you, trust you, believe in you. Number two, make them curious to know that you're going to provide them with the properties that they want to see. Then after you do that, tell them, let's meet up. I want to go over a few things with you. And I have a great approach of how we're going to handle this. When you do see them either on the Zoom or in person, then you're going to pull up the screen, which I'm about to go over now. And you're going to go over this exclusive buyer's agreement is what we call it, but you call it the BRA. When you go over it, there's some points in it as we go over it. I'm going to role play right now and pretend that I'm doing it with a buyer that's on Zoom. And you're going to see how I can articulate and say, well, in this particular area, you could see the value here that I'm going to be representing you. And this is how it's going to protect you. So just watch me as I do it. And then we're going to take some feedback. And I see some things going on in the chat. But once again, I will not stop unless Benisa stops me. So on the screen, you're about to see the single agent. There's two types of buyer's brokerage agreement we have in Florida. We have a single agent one, and we have a transaction broker one. I don't know what the laws are in Canada, but let me explain between the two. They pretty much look the same. The only difference is on the last page, one will say at the bottom, the transaction brokerage. You represent them as a transaction brokerage. And the transaction brokerage means that you could represent the seller and the buyer in the one transaction here in the United States. All right. So look over your agreement. Now, here's the role playing. We're going to use this one. Obviously, you guys could see what's going on. I'm using a transaction brokerage. You're going to drop the buyer's name information in there, obviously, right? And you're going to put your brokerage information in here as well. And then you're going to put the beginning date. So you're going to put the date that you're going to start to represent them, and you're going to put an end date. What should you choose? Well, be realistic. Think about it. By this stage, you already spoke to the buyer's lender. And the lender says to you, hey, listen, they're pre-approved, they're pre-qualified. And obviously, you know that the pre-qualification does exist for typically 90 days or whatever. So, you know you could get a buyer tied up in about 90 days to 6 months. So the longer you put it, the better off you are. And, you know, they won't be scared. If you're putting 1 year or 24 months, they might be like, what the heck? You're not going to get me? So choose wisely, right? Make sure you're in line with what the buyer is qualified for and how you think you can get them what they want. Just kind of be realistic. The next thing is you're going to see that it says that the buyer is interested in acquiring, right here, I'm reading here, a real property as follows. And the type of property, single family, located in what? Put the city, you know, you kind of fill this out. And the price range that they get pre-approved for, 1 million to 1.5. The buyer has a pre-approval or whatever, approved by, put that information in there. The conditions. This form is really, really not hard to use. And you can follow it through. What your BRA looked like there, I have no clue. Now, here are some of the benefits when you go over this with the client. He said, well, here are some of the obligations or some of the benefits of what I am responsible for as your broker. I'm going to use professional knowledge and skills. That's why we're filling this out and signing this today, because I'm going to use professional knowledge and skills. I'm also going to help you with your financial capabilities. So what that means is, let me give you an example, Mr. Buyer. Sometimes, right, from my experience, I see that there is an opportunity for you to get some kind of down payment assistance, and I know that I go to workshops or I go somewhere or I hear that from a lender, I'm going to share that with you. That's how valuable I am to you. So that is why we have this agreement. So you totally understand what my obligations are to you. And that way, you know, we have a working agreement. Next thing is, it says that you will discuss the property requirements and assist the buyer in locating and viewing suitable properties. And you just read it through, just go through each and every one. What this means to you is that it's going to be my job to sit down in the evenings and go through, you know how many times I've done it, and express it from your heart. You know how many times I pull up properties for my buyers and it's like 50. I go in the system, man, you know, and I pull up like properties that kind of look in your criteria. And I have to take a deep breath because I said to myself, I know Sarah, call the buyer's name. I know Sarah is not going to really want to see 50 homes. So I have to go through and pick them for you. That is what you're getting from me. Look at the value in which I present to you. Here's another thing. Assist the buyer to the contract of the property. Monitor the deadlines. You know, explain this to them. Say, listen, buyer, when we do get you into a contract, I've got to write that contract for you. And that's what I'm knowledgeable with. I know how to create the terms and negotiate them very well. I was trained in this area. State where you were traded by. Hopefully you could tell them I was trained by the 5 steps of the sales system, so I know how to negotiate. But if you have something else, that's great. But you must have skill set because you're going to have to negotiate for them and you have to show them that. And then the second part of it is the monitoring of the deadlines. You got to tell them, listen, it's going to be my responsibility and my transaction coordinator that I hire to help me and you stay on top of the timelines. Let me give you an example, buyer. What if your inspection period is 10 days and you happen to forget about the 10th day that this is when it's going to end and this is when you need to do certain things or make an additional deposit? I'm here to help you with that. That's my responsibility. And I'm putting it in writing. The next thing you could point out to them is, I'm going to cooperate with real estate license working folks with the seller. I'm going to deal with the seller's agent, if there's any, to affect the transaction. So that means that I need to use my selling skills to get them to do what you want them to do. You want to make an offer at a certain price? That's me. I'm the one that can do that. I was trained to do that. You want to get a certain term, like, you know, close at a certain time? That's me. I know how to do that. Create the value. The more you educate the client along the way, definitely after they like you, listen to you, trust you, and believe in you, they are inclined to pay any darn money that you tell them or anything, because by this point, when you show them these obligations that you have to them, they're going to say, you know what, I never looked at it that way. This is really cool. I really appreciate it. And typically, when we do spend time with the clients to go through this, they find value in this one right here. Right here, where we have to cooperate with real estate license working with the seller, if there's any. They usually say, oh, wow, yeah, it's true, it's true, it's true. You're going to have to negotiate. And some of those agents could be really tough. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate you. So going through this, look at this BRA as an opportunity for you to educate the client. And when you educate them, what happens? They are appreciating your value. They could see the value in you. Here's another part of it. Okay, other buyers. Our agreement says that if there's another buyer that I'm working with on the same property, I could notify you. You know, look at this. If you make an offer on a property and I happen to have another buyer, I'm already saying to you that I commit to tell you, hey, Sarah, I just have another buyer named Diana. I showed her the same property. I just want you to know. I can't tell you what she offered, but she did make an offer. I just want to reveal it to you. So if you really want to go for this, don't feel bad. Don't be mad at me. You know, just know that I promise to let you know that, right? And they will accept that. Hey, if they say, well, Paul, this is not cool, then you could tell them it's the marketplace. I have multiple clients and I've never had a problem with this. Fair housing, this is kind of like you let them know that, you know, you are a professional. You don't discriminate for any race, color, religion, sex, handicap, anything. You are straight up non-biased. You're just going to there make sure that the deal happens the way they want to see it. Severe providers does not warrant guarantee, right? Let's just talk about, hey, even though you're going to go out there and do what you're going to do, you don't guarantee anything. But read over your BRA in its entirety when you're there in Canada. For those of you inside of the US, then you know you could always reach out to me. All right, let's keep going down because it continues on. It says that the buyer agrees to do what? Look, now you're going to go over this with them. Say, you as a buyer, you agree to cooperate with me, the broker, in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement. A, conducting all negotiations and effects to locate suitable property only through the broker. That means that if you see anything, the way you could do this is you could say, okay, this one right here, A, all it's saying is that if you see any properties, and if you walk into a subdivision that's a new construction, be aware, you've got to tell me. So when you walk in the door, you got to tell them, if you go in an open house, just say, hi. And here's a matter of fact, let me give you some of my business cards. And I do this all the time. You need to tell them that you're working with a realtor. Say, hey, I'm working with a realtor. It's Paul Atkinson. I have his card, but he's not with me now, but I just wanted to see the house. Is that okay? So you definitely should tell them that you're there to conduct all of the negotiations. And if they see anything, give it to you. The next part is that the buyer, the buyer should provide the broker with accurate personal information. So you just let them know that, hey, you know, whatever it is, the information that you're giving me, I've got it. I know how to reach you. I've got your email is correct. The next thing is the buyer should be available to meet with the broker, you know, at reasonable times. I tend, when I go over this with the clients, I really try not to dig too deep. I just go over it and just tell them my positive interpretation of these lines. For example, I would, if let's say I'm going to talk to them about C, and C says the buyer should be available to meet the broker at reasonable times. I'm not going to say it like that. I'm going to say to the buyer, all right, and right here, C is just basically talking about the times that we're going to get together. I just want you to know that on Sundays, I really go to church. And, you know, like, I can't really show you until after 2 p.m. Is that okay with you? What about you? What is your timeline? What are the best times to show you? That's how I handle this. You know, I understand what the verbiage say, but you have to take this thing out of it, and you need to be articulate. And articulate means that you know how to form your words and put them together. So this is very, very important. Now, I mentioned to you that our document here has a retainer. And one of the things that one of our agents, Nancy Brown, does well is she gets that retainer. It's like $495, something like that. And she basically says, hey, listen, this is a non-refundable retainer, but she writes on here where it is refundable. She says it's refundable. And I'm going to credit you back at closing. And she put it in and she turned it into the brokerage firm. And then we would go ahead and make sure that we account for that. So it's up to you how you want to do that. Me personally, I don't collect a retainer. I'm a zero guy on this. I go for my commitment and just explain this to them. And then the compensation. The next part of this is the compensation. And you would just talk about how you get compensated and make it clear. Because sometimes buyers, especially new buyers, they don't understand or know how you get compensated. So you could talk about that with them. And let's go down to protection period. Usually, we would put like...
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Paul, can
Yes.
you back up a little bit to the compensation and just kind of give one little brief example on how you would say say you're talking to me, how would you explain your compensation? Just real fast. I know we don't have a whole lot of time to go into details, but I think it would be good for everyone to hear just one example.
Sure. Of course, Diana, absolutely. We'd be delighted. Thank you very much. So in this section, you're just basically explaining to the buyer how you get paid. Right here. And if you read it, it basically says the broker's compensation is earned when, during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, the buyer, right, acting on behalf of the buyer contracts acquire a property. And then, in exchange, you would put here that the percentage. So typically it's out there where it's like 2.5% or to be determined on a purchase, 2.5 to 3%. You can select only one. So you basically would just put in here that it's expected that we can get as much as 3%. So I'd usually put a 3% in here. If it's something for lease, then it's not applicable because I'm not really representing you in leasing. Option buyback, I'm not dealing with that with you, or any other compensation, like if there's a bonus, then I could state that if there's a bonus. So this is just disclosing to them, like, the seller will pay a commission for my work and I will go ahead and that's how I will get paid. So you just kind of just talk about your agreement as it is and what to expect. Got it?
Got it. Thank you for explaining that a little bit more. I know compensation and money is a really important thing. Everybody in the chat, is that something you want to learn more about? You can go ahead and give us a thumbs up or a yes, and I'll make a note of who'd like to hear more.
Thank you, Dana. Perfecto. Now, the protection period, this, basically is a time that you are saying, hey, you know what, I think I could get what you're wanting to find within a timeline, and usually coordinate that, as I started in the beginning, you coordinate that with the lender. Like you'd say, hey, how long is this pre-approval good for? And then they said, okay, 90 days. And you say, all right, good. Then you use your brain and say, this client wants a $1.5 million home that they're qualified for in Ottawa. And right now, I know that's a good price range. We have a lot to choose from. I should be able to get them knocked out on the first 2 weekends. So you don't need to go past 90 days. You could put in here reasonable time. I think it'd be 90 days. And you just write it in. If you think that it should be a little bit longer, then you put 6 months. But really don't try to go too long to let them feel like, oh my gosh. And then it talks about the early termination. I don't know what your agreement talks about, but if there's any early termination, of course, both parties could agree to that. And you just sign off on it saying that, hey, you release them from it. I've seen situations like that before. But the most important thing about all of this is that you must have a connection with the client. And not only having a connection with the client, but you must also have the ability to provide them value. That's what Judette, I hope I pronounced it correctly, spoke about earlier. She does provide value. So many of you in the chat, it's all about providing value. That is what this document looked like here. And now let's open back up to spend the last 10 minutes of some just feedback. Thank you, Diana. Great. Let's give me some feedback. Vanessa, if you could let some folks in as much as they would like to. This is the Q&A time. And remember, inside of the link, inside of the chat, you also have a growth call that you'll do one-on-one with a CPC, a certified professional coach. Click on the link. Nick, we see you here. Click on the growth call link and get a free growth call. It's great. A lot of agents do a growth call and they establish a lot more from just this talk today.
Yeah, Nick
ahead.
has a lot to say. Can we let Nick Acosta? Oh, excuse me.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Nick.
Good afternoon, Paul. This is very enjoyable. Appreciate you walking us through the buyer's agreement. For me, I was hoping to have a better understanding on approach. I know we started the conversation a little bit about adding value and getting buyers to go ahead and understand and build credibility so that they can compensate you. Given the recent NAR settlement, and specifically in the state of Florida, where you're from, so am I. I am in Tampa, Florida, Pinellas County, Hillsborough County. The challenge that we're now going to be running into as a result of the settlement is that sellers no longer have to feel obligated to compensate the buyer's agent.
Yes.
So when you walk through that compensation part on the form, it
Yes.
kind of was more directed towards me as the buyer agent, Mr. Buyer. I'm going to be paid via the seller. And I think what we, at least myself, want to have a better understanding to get the buyers to sign this agreement is to have them understand that I need to be compensated because this is my livelihood, as we talked at the beginning of the conversation.
Yes.
And if the seller is not willing to pay me and compensate me, then I'm going to be looking for you to compensate me based on all the things that I bring to the table and the 5 points that you brought up on your process, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to have a better understanding as to how to communicate that more effectively to let them know that historically, you know, we're in a position where sellers paid 6% or 5%. It gets split between the cooperating agents. If the 2.5% commission is what we're going to be working with and that I'm expecting, if the seller is only willing to pay 1%, how do I approach the buyer to go ahead and be willing to compensate me for the additional 1.5% and so forth?
That's a good question, Nick. And, some time ago, I think maybe on the 15th of November, we had a very good training that was talking just about this NAR settlement. What happens if we wake up one day here in the United States and they say, hey, in our marketplace, guess what? The seller does not have to pay co-brokerage anymore. We would be up the creek. And look at your screen. Harvard Business Review say the 7 reasons salespeople don't close a deal is what? Number 1, you're not trusted or respected. 2, you can't converse effectively. 3, you can't clearly explain how your solution helps the buyer. All of this facts. Okay, fine. So what are we saying, Nick? You've got to have selling skills. Is your brokerage giving you selling skills right now? If they're not, where can you get it? Who has selling skills out there to give? Well, Paul Atkinson wrote the book, The 5 Steps to the Sale. Agent Locator knows that. That is why we are here to help. If you want help, get some kind of selling system. Now, here's what we want you to know. A selling system that is so powerful needs to have these things practiced all the time. Look on the screen. The right perception, that means that the buyer sees you in a way that they feel comfortable. They say, you know what? He dresses and he's professional. Yeah, I could trust him. Their perception, because a person's perception becomes one's own reality. So you need to know that when you step into the sales arena, you've got to be like, okay, how this buyer going to see me? They're going to see me as the one agent that's the best. All right. So next thing, you've got to be able to gain trust from them. A couple ways of gaining trust from them is just delivering what they ask for, little bit at a time, and always delivering, gaining trust. You've got to be able to read the playing field. So that means when you sit with a buyer and you're dealing with a buyer, you know where they're coming from. You understand, you see exactly how their personalities are. There's we use the PACE program by Ty Lopez when we teach the 5 steps of the sale. And PASE stands for these 4 different type of personalities. It's simple and easy to understand. P is a practical type of personality. This logical people. A would be aggressive. Those people want something done right away. S is for social. These people, they talk a lot. Yep. And then E is emotional. They might even cry if the offer don't get accepted. Boo-hoo-hoo. How do you deal and how do you read the playing field? Very important. Ability to use association technique, mirroring technique, psychological reciprocity. How do you use things to get the people to like you? How do you associate with them? How do you respect their values so they can in turn respect yours? Then the mindset. You got to get up every day as a salesperson and say, I got this. Yeah, I'm going to get it. The buyer's going to sign my agreement. And they're going to pay my commission. As a matter of fact, they're going to pay 4%. You got to be able to do that. How do you do that? And then you have to practice, practice, practice. So it's very important that you realize that even though we're going into an environment right now, possibly, where the buyer might have to pay that compensation, you could do it. When I first heard that NAR, National Association of Realtors, had that settlement, I said to myself, oh my gosh, what would happen to me and my team? And then I relaxed and I said, we know the 5 steps of the sale. We're good to go. What is your selling system? That's the ticket. Be comfortable with the client, create value for them, and show them that, hey, listen, right now, the seller is no longer paying a fee, my fee of 3%. So we're going to put it in this agreement. As I make the offer, you agree to pay the 3%. Now, I've already spoken to your lender, and your lender said that we can put the contract price up. So whatever it is, we really don't know. This is not agreed upon yet, but there's going to be a lot of maneuvering if that's what happens. But I think the most thing to do, Nick, is to realize that you should have the ability to connect with the client and persuade them. That's the biggest thing. I see some more chats here, Joy. Thanks, Joy. Yeah, you as well. Okay. Anybody else before we wrap up? Nick, any last word before we go? I hope that was helpful.
It was definitely. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Yeah, it was definitely helpful. Everything that you said is very, very, very on point. I think for us agents, what we really need to have to look at is, as you mentioned, stay positive, because every market, every change brings opportunity, and you have to focus with opportunity. And this is where a lot of the weaker agents, a lot of the part-time agents will drop, and you have an opportunity to really show your value. So education at this point is paramount. Go and get educated, get your ABR, get your CSR, get everything that you can think of, because that's what's going to separate you from other agents.
Absolutely. You're so right. And that's a ticket. Now, I saw in the chat, someone says, can you put up the last slide? Is this the one? The next one, going backwards or going forward? Oh, this one, what you need. Your impression.
Also, H. Peter Epstein has a little information to share about the Canadian side, or the Ontario side, I think he said in his chat.
Okay.
Yeah, Ontario's BRA, if you'd like to have someone else jump in.
All right. Is this a slide that you wanted up? Who was asking for the last slide? Maggie, yes or no? Is this the one you wanted, or when you say go, the next one? Yes. Okay, there you go. Okay, cool. All right, go ahead. The next person, what's his name? I'm sorry, I apologize. Quick question
Peter.
about Robert.
H. Peter Epstein.
H.
Epstein. There he is. He's on mute.
Okay, hi H. Okay, we're listening, buddy. Come on, what do you got? H, are you okay to speak?
He might be having issues with his microphone or something, but we have Shannon here. She was
Okay.
writing about the Ontario BRA as well.
Okay.
Shannon, would you come on?
Go ahead, Shannon. We're here for you.
I think my mic works now.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, H, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, it just, go by Peter. That's all. That's good.
Okay.
But the BRA here is, as a broker manager, I know that all of my reps were having such a terrible time. They cringe when they have to sign it. They don't get it signed, and then somebody else sneaks in and steals their deals.
Yeah.
And then they complain.
Yeah.
So, Paul, your talk about developing that rapport with your client is so important.
Yes.
And then the next thing that I was remarking on was taking that extra time and actually asking your client as to, no doubt you've actually heard about the BRA, and confirm with them.
That's right.
And then, yeah, they've heard about it, but I don't want to sign one. Well, has anyone actually gone through the BRA for you or with you to explain it and show just how important this document is for both of us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you ask them that question, then they kind of go, well, nobody's taken the time to show me. Well, how about we set that appointment
Uh-huh. Yep.
and go through it just as you've explained?
Exactly. And Peter, that is so wonderful. Now look at the screen, guys. What Peter is talking about is so, so important. And Peter, we would be delighted to get on a growth call with you and your agency. Diana is there. Look, guys, Peter, just imagine if all of your team learned what you're saying, the conversation. They get the prospect to like them, listen to them, trust them, and believe in them. Then they get their want, need, and their DBM. After they do that, then they say to the client, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, wow, man, I can't wait to show you all the houses I've got for you. Wait till you see how I'm going to get you the right property. I'm going to be able to negotiate and get the deal done. Are you excited? I'm so excited because I know I can get this deal done. That's curiosity, Peter. When they're jump up, then you're going to slide in. This is when we bring in the BRA right here.
Exactly. I mean, you've got to have them. You've got to have them on side.
Mm-hmm.
And
Drop
you've
the
got
BRA right there just
and-
before they get what they want.
exactly. And you've got, and it's like one of your attendees earlier was talking about, I think it was trust, and as part of that, it's just like you've got to be able to prove yourself as being the trustworthy person.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you don't have trust, you can't try a trial close. You can't ask for the business if nobody trusts you for the business.
So true. And that call, it comes right into the systematic approach to getting it. This is easy. It is really, really easy, guys. All you have to do is just know the points. Conversation, curiosity, conviction, trial close, and close. Remember, you skip objections. This is not there. You go from here all the way to here. Sometimes you could even be in the conversation and they say, oh, sign me up. Booms. Even in curiosity, they even say, I don't want to see the product. Just give me, you're so cool, give me, close it.
Well, that's it. And then the other part of it is that what is an objection? An objection is just your client still confused.
Yeah, an
So
objection is just a question in disguise. That's all it is. Yeah.
A confused mind says no.
Yep.
And so how do you get to yes? You got to find out and ask more questions to discover where their objection really lies. 99% of the time, it's not with you. It's
Mhm.
something else that they are afraid of.
Exactly. And I'm going to show you something differently right now.
I love that. I love that too. It kind of goes back and it makes you show that, yes, there's 5 steps of the sale. And, when you work with Paul a little bit more one-on-one, he shows you how those steps, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes you go to 3 and then you got to go back to 1. Or sometimes you got to go back to 2 and you've got to move through the steps of the sale. And that's a little bit of what you were saying there, Peter, that as you go through and more information is given, you've got to, on the seller side, the professional, the one who's professionally making this deal happen, us here, you have to make sure that your clients are in full understanding, because you're absolutely right. An objection is a confusion that they or a fear. And to get to those fears, you have to ask questions.
Let's give you guys a brownie today. This is from the curriculum. This is from the curriculum. And when we teach it, Peter, please pay very close attention. The 4th step is typically not needed. And it says, when you go through steps 1, 2, and 3, very good. That means conversation, curiosity, conviction, then you typically go close. And it says this step of the sale requires nothing more than objection handling. Now, look at the next slide. This is what we teach. We might Why might your prospect react negatively to a trial close? Here are 4 reasons. The prospect needs more information to make a decision. The prospect is testing your conviction. The prospect is trying to keep from making a decision. The prospect possibly have something real hidden, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I signed this, maybe my lawyer should look it over. My mom said I should. You never know. But these are the 4 reasons. When you get ready to handle an objection, the key way to handle it is you just take that objection, turn it back into a question. And there's a verbal bridge to do that. You say, hey, from my understanding, you're saying, no, this is the best way to do it. Buyer says, oh no, Peter, I'm not going to sign that BRA. I'm not going to sign it. Just relax. And you just say to them with a smile, hey, I could understand how you feel. Others have felt that way. And that brings up a question. And the question is, you're wanting to know what is the real reason behind you signing the BRA. Is that the question? Oh, okay. Let me show you why. That's how you handle the objection. Turn it back into a question, and then you handle it. So that's wonderful. Peter, you're also talking about fear and all that. Remember, guys, inside of the chat, you want to click on the link right now because we're about to log off. But Shannon, please, Shannon, tell us, what are you feeling about all of this today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Shannon. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure. The reason why I wanted to be on today was because I've done some independent training related to these buyer broker agreements. And I just wanted to see if anybody had different perspectives, in addition to what I've already heard. I like what I've heard today. I think it's not typically different than what I've already been through, but I do like hearing what other people in the industry are saying about it. In the marketplace that we're dealing with now, I'm not sure if Canada is the same way, but I think that it probably is when I explain to a lot of my buyer clients that I'm dealing with, and I've dealt with many buyer clients in 2023, is that I don't even think the main purpose, the main value that you're bringing to a buyer in 2023, 2022, 2021 is not locating the property, although that's a challenge because the inventory is so low. But
Yes.
The real challenge and why you need an effective broker and the talent that you should be getting paid for is the fact that you can get an offer written that gets accepted. And that's where a lot of agents do not have that skill.
That's so true. So true. And that is remember when we went over the obligation to the buyer, remember we said that the broker's obligation, remember the star I put? And I said that we're going to be cooperating with the seller's agent. And this is where you need the skill set that I have and the attitude that I have. That's how you present it to the buyer. You know, Shannon, you're totally correct. And you've seen it today, exactly what needs to be done. Folks, we're about to wrap up, but just remember that this is what we're talking about. Peter, Shannon, all of us here, you have to have the ability to deal with the buyers. The market has changed, it's evolution. I've been in this business for 20 years as a realtor and 30 years as a salesperson, entrepreneur. Hey, the same system I've been using, the 5 steps of the sale, for 30 years. I know it works. You have to get a systematic approach to getting the client from A to B. It must be systematic. If you don't, then chances are you're going to be in the statistics of the 20% of the realtors that are making it, the 80% that are not making it. And you don't want to be in the bottom 80%. Because that's where you're projected to be. Anybody else before we go? And Benisa, how would you close us out? Anyone else in the chat? Remember?
I think Nick wanted to add something to what he was saying before. So if we want to allow him to talk for 1 more minute.
Nick, please. Come, Nick. Absolutely. Please.
I was just going to go back to the problems that Harjeet said with getting the BRA signed. One of the things that have helped me is leveraging off the fact that you can tell the buyers that everything that they have done to date and will continue to do, they're signing off on, whether it is the lender's disclosure, whether it is an inspection, whether it is an appraisal, whether it's any service. It's normal to sign off on an agreement for a professional service, and you should go ahead and convey that to them as well.
Yes, that's so true. So true. Yeah. Give them as much value, because this is like an education. And what happens, we studied the Johari window. Johari window, perhaps most of you don't know it, but in the academy, we study it with the students. And that is where you have this window, right? Just imagine there's 4 windows. And, when you have a blind spot and, another spot where people are non-disclosing, in order to get the open window more open, there's 2 things to get it more open. It's called positive feedback. That means you give positive feedback, and disclosure, educating. You tell the client what to expect. Here we go. It's going to be like this. They feel more confident and they trust you better, and it's stronger, and you could control and direct the whole process. I have two something. Nick, you're saying something else? Let me see.
No, Nick is getting ready to jump off. Go ahead
Okay,
and jump
guys.
on your 2:30, Nick. Get ready for that, and happy selling. We hope to hear about lots of success stories. I've put the link in there a couple of times to book a call with Paul. Now, I know you guys see me put it up here on all these agent locator webinars. It's because we value and respect agent locator so much that Paul is offering this growth call as complimentary. Normally there would be, if you just went and called this up, we would have a $1,500 USD charge to it. So please take advantage, jump on Paul's schedule. Let's finish out the year nice and strong with as much as we can do to get you started, so that when 2024 opens and starts, you guys are hitting those streets with a bang, and everybody's got 2-3 contracts written all the time. So thank you so much. I'm going to put the link one more time.
I appreciate all of you, and thank you, Dan, and I'm saying that. And then Benisa, what about you? What do you want to say? When is the next time you guys want me to come? And it's probably going to be next year. No, next month.
No, actually, we have a next one planned in about 15 days. So December 14th is the date. And on that session, we will be discussing on how to deal with difficult clients.
Nice.
So if everybody wants to gain some actually knowledge on that, we'll be happy to attend you here.
Wonderful. I look forward to it.
Oh, the December's a busy month because we also have another webinar that's a lunch and learn that they can come to if they want to send me their email addresses. That's at no cost. It's another complimentary thing. Or jump on a growth call. I'll put my link in there as well. You can jump on a call with me and I'll tell you how to get on the other all the December information.
Benisa, we should send that to you. I just thought about it. Yeah, we're doing things here that can help all of the agent locator folks. It's complimentary work. It's called Feast or Famine, and we're going to give a lot of valuable information on that.
Awesome. You have my email. Send that my way. I will make sure to share it with everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, give me your email address. I'll make sure you get it.
My phone is blowing up. A lot of people are booking their calls already. Thank you, guys. I love you. I trust you, and I believe in you. Let's go. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. See you guys. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone. I got it, Benicia.
Thank you. Thanks.